Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming full moon taking place in the sign of Cancer on the 29th or 30th of the month, depending on where you are on the planet, in the sign of Cancer. So we are going to have a really powerful and influential full moon because Cancer is the home sign. It is the throne of the Silver Queen, the Queen of the Night Sky. And she holds two very important and influential celestial conversations. Of course, these can go either way, but what truly matters is that at least from an emotional, at least from a spiritual and even psychological perspective, this full moon allows us to truly draw conclusions of all what happened to us during 2020. Everything good and bad, the big lessons, whatever happened to us emotionally, relationship-wise, and simply our soul's journey through this very impactful year. Now, before I get into the analysis, I would just like to make a special announcement once again. 1 Million Night is looking for sponsors, people or other companies, those who hold media channels, blogs, websites, YouTube channels, who would like to sponsor us, because in order for our free content, our free horoscopes, our free daily, weekly guidances to keep on existing, we do need your support. Of course, we will be very happy to include your business, whatever it is that you do, in our horoscopes, to feature you on our website, in all of our articles. We can even create special horoscopes, special readings for your website, for your media platform. So if you'd like to sponsor us, you can find the contact details in the description of this video, or just log on to 1millionnights.com and find our contact us button. Now, going back to this Cancer full moon, well, what a wonderful energy. What a beautiful gift from the heavens to close this year and also to find all of our closures, everything that we need, at least emotionally and on the soul level, to exit the old paradigm and do our very best to embrace the new one. Now, one of the big conversations that the moon is going to hold with a very important other power player, well, it is one of tension. We're speaking about Chiron in the sign of Aries. Now, this is very important for a number of different reasons. Now, ever since Chiron entered this part of the sky, immediately we could have seen it play out on the world stage, especially when it was conjunct with Mars. So it was kind of enraged, so to speak, with the Black Lives Matter movements, with the fairness, equality, political correctness. It basically dug up all of our ancestral wounds, all of the pain, suffering, injustices our ancestors suffered from one reason or another. It's not really the reason which matters. What actually matters is that we are able to find closure, and at the same time we are not forgetting what happened. We are alchemizing it into a memory, so it is basically eternally recorded in history, but also we are able to find forgiveness, and we are able to find closure and resolution. And when we forgive whatever happened to our ancestors, we also forgive ourselves, and we also declutter the collective karmic energies that affect our culture, our society, our country. But at the same time, the Chiron in Aries also refers to our own individual personal wounds, especially those which go really deep, those which manage to touch even the core of our beings, Aries. It is the primordial self. We're talking about the biggest disappointments, the biggest heartaches, moments when our souls were shattered, and naturally those left very deep and profound traumas. And it was those traumas that Pluto's tensioned conversations with Mars and Pluto's meeting with Jupiter and Saturn in the autumn dug out. They have been dug up to the surface for us to confront them and for us to one way dissociate our present from the past and attempt to walk a path of healing. It doesn't matter how much successful we were on that healing journey. This moment when Chiron is going to be speaking in a square with the moon, the symbol of our emotional world, our soul basically, and Chiron, the wounded healer, our wounds. Well, this is another reminder, an emotional reminder, a psychological reminder that our wounds are still there, because they are like scars, they are like tattoos, they're permanent. But this is where they are no longer holding us bound. They are no longer forcing us to relive over and over and over again the past, that temporal fragment where that soul shard, the broken soul shard, is living internally, forcing it to relive the trauma. And by reliving the trauma, it controls us, it has power over us. It continuously upsets us and takes away our power. Now, this conversation between Chiron and the moon reminds us that all of that belongs to the past, and whatever we do, we are definitely not taking the living trauma, the living and open wound with us into the future. The memory stays, the lessons are learned, and they're basically alchemized into wisdom, into experience, into memory, just chemical imprints in our brains. But that is all it has to be. We cannot take the pain, the living pain, a temporal pain with us into the future. It has to stay in the past. It has to stay just an inactive memory and nothing else. And for all of us who still have to do certain steps or certain gestures towards the completion of our healing journeys, well, this is a really, really good energy, even though, it is not pleasant for some people, those who are still carrying the living wound inside of them, because this re-evokes it. And the moon in her home sign of Cancer, it is very strong. So it pulls all of this emotion onto the surface. But this is the big difference. Mercury, the planet of mind and communication, is also part of this picture, because it opposes the moon, not just the sun. Mercury opposes the moon as well, which means a compromise which we can make with ourselves, where we can finally make the decision to just file all the wounds, file all the hurt, and put it into a locked cabinet inside our memories, inside our symbolic inner hardware, our hard drive, and just keep it there, because there is absolutely no reason why the trauma, why the wound, why the hurt has to still be alive and influence us. So this opposition with Mercury is quite helpful, because this is where we just take control of the situation, even from a psychological perspective, and we say enough is enough. We are rationalizing it. We know rationally, logically, through our mental spheres what it means, how of a great influence an unhealed trauma has over us. So right now we have to do the work, and the first part of the work is that compromise, where we just decide that this is how things are gonna be. That wound is not coming with us in the future. And in order to make this even more magical, easier, almost miraculous that Mercury forms a sextile, a harmonious celestial conversation with Neptune, this planet of the unconscious, the subconscious spirituality, connection to source, the divinity inside of us, our higher selves basically, which means that we are receiving help. Our inner beings are helping us to heal. The universe, through synchronicities, through communication, through other people, through the words of other people, through maybe coincidences, let's say, they are all helping us heal, or at least embrace the future without that trauma being alive inside of us. So this is an empowered and blessed Mercury, where Mercury is the rationality and the logic, but Neptune is the unconscious, that which lies below the surface. And if these two are in harmony, well then both sides of our beings, both the rationality, but also our intuition, our inner self, is very helpful. And everyone, as in every part of our being, wants us to heal. But before that healing can be completed, so to speak, the memory of the pain has to be evoked once more. And for those of us who have already completed the healing journey, well then that is all it's going to be, a memory and a sigh of relief, a moment of rejoice that getting here, embracing that healing, following the healing journey was so very, very hard, and it caused us to die as an ego death, of course, who we thought we were in so very many different ways. But then in Scorpio season, there was the phoenix. We arose from our ashes and we overcame the wound. So it is, of course, a moment of celebration that we are already embodying our most healed, regenerated, and stable self. And for those of us who still have a couple of steps to make on this healing journey, well, what a powerful celestial opportunity this is to finally close the wound and put the bandage on it. But of course, it's not just Chiron who converses with the moon. We have a supremely harmonious celestial conversation, a sextile, which the moon holds with Uranus. And that can mean surprises, that can mean delightful moments, that can mean a lot of synchronicities entering our lives to help us, to inspire us, to guide us. But at the same time, Moon, the soul, and our, let's say, emotional intelligence, and Uranus, our highest cerebral activities, when they dance in supreme harmony, well, that can mean really powerful, life-changing epiphanies, sudden realizations, revelations, where, you know, when you figure out the truth, or when you get aligned to your own personal truth, it manifests externally one way or another in an instant, there and then. So this is a really, really good and positive and very, very, very dynamic energy, where your healing reflects in a very, how should I even put this, in a very concrete, real life, material way. And Mercury in the sign of Capricorn also speaks about everything has to be real, down to earth, be applicable in the material plane. So this is a really, really good news. At the same time, Mars, from his home sign of Aries, still holds a square with Pluto. And even though this is a conversation of tension, and as you know, Pluto is the celestial psychoanalysis, the psychologist. So basically, it just shows us the truth, the raw, unrefined truth. It highlights whatever it is that we need to do to enable the change, to get to where we need to be, and that Mars is our willpower. Mars is our inner self, basically our strength, our energy, our focus. And yes, it is a square, but it is still an aspect of motivation, especially if we combine it with this full moon, because it gives us the determination, the courage, the superhuman strength, everything that we need internally to do everything that we need to do in order to be healed, in order to act from a place of integrity, especially from a psychological and emotional perspective. If we need to face certain truths, that's fine. If they are painful, well, they have always been painful. It is just the moment when we have to confront them. And ultimately, if we need to eliminate certain things, habits, or people or influences from our lives, it is what we have to do, and there is no turning back. And most of all, what the Mars and Pluto square mean: total, absolute honesty with the self. We might be able to trick, manipulate, influence other people, and that can also be the symbol of Pluto, the power we hold over what others believe. But with ourselves, only a place of total and raw honesty can get us anywhere in life, anywhere in destiny. And that is the imperative requirement for us to have a healthy relation with the divine and with our inner selves. So whatever is true and honest in our lives, even if those things are not pleasant, this is where we have to stare them in the eye and accept them. And this full moon is really, really helpful in this sense, especially with Chiron, the celestial symbol of healing. And another symbol of Chiron is when our deepest wounds, those which remain scars, those which remain permanent part of our beings, can also be transmuted into virtues. Because Chiron got his place on the sky exactly because of the wound that he just couldn't heal, couldn't regenerate anymore. But it was the very same wound which made him suffer incomprehensible agony, which actually transformed him into an immortal celestial being, into basically a god. So from a symbolic perspective, this is also part of this full moon. Our deepest wounds, our greatest suffering in life is also power, a lot of power that we are invited to use and embody right now in order to go ahead in life and with our plans, with our desires, with whatever future we would like to experience and we think it's worthy for who we are deep inside. And also, at the same time, Uranus holds a conversation of supreme harmony with the Sun. And each year this is a really wonderful aspect, because that represents that our consciousness, even our super intelligence, is illuminated. It is that much more stronger, attractive, magnetic. So we can draw a lot of help, solutions, even finances and money into our lives, because the Sun speaks from the sign of Capricorn, manifestation, material reality, stability, groundedness, whatever it is that we embody. And Uranus from Taurus, values, money, finances, currency, comfort. And the only requirement is to be open to the new, to have an open mind and open heart, because really, really wonderful, unique opportunities can just enter our lives during this time. And this is a very small window of opportunity, because very soon, as we head into next year, Mars is going to be meeting Uranus in the sky in a conjunction. So, that is a very, very volatile energy that will shake the world financially, economically, politically, and socially in a way that we very rarely see play out in the world. So all of us have to prepare for that moment. And at the same time, when Mars, the activator, the energizer, meets a planet which is even quicker, even more chaotic, even more explosive, so to speak, well, then we can also imagine that very relevant and symbolic physical manifestations are going to take place in the world, like an explosion, natural calamity, earthquake, volcano, tsunami, incredibly weird and unusual weather phenomenon, etc. Heat waves in the middle of winter, for example. But it is maybe the political side of things which is more worrying, because it does mean some kind of revolution. It does mean some kind of political shock and earthquake. So destabilization. Of course, all of this is for the greater good long term, because it will deconstruct, just blow up that which is not functioning and not working. And Uranus, the planet of equality, well, the power of the people. And Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, that is also the power of the people. Just that it is more, official, legal, symbolic, but when 10 trillion people sign a petition, that is a valid symbol of the power of the people that can simply not be ignored by anyone. So everything points to a very, very close upcoming social change, a crisis which leads to a very profound transformation and innovation. But of course, I'll speak more about this as we head into next year, if we are able to find a sponsor, that is. And last but not least, there is another energy which I have to mention. Venus from the sign of Sagittarius converses in tension with Neptune from Pisces. Now this is really important, because this kind of tension, it doesn't usually manifest as like stress and conflict and, the usual way which we would expect something like this to play out. Venus is highly emotional. Neptune, it is our unconscious, so it is a totally different kind of emotional state. And when they converse in this manner in tension, well, that can represent unexpected, very unusual state of consciousness, states of awareness, emotional states, especially under a full moon, a Cancer full moon. So, that can mean a little bit tricks of the mind, illusions, extremely elevated feelings, which might not always be, correlated with physical external reality. So under this sky, we might have the tendency to strongly and firmly believe our most beautiful fantasies, and of course act upon them if it has anything to do with massive overspending, an investment into something just because you feel it, a dream that you had which seemed so very, very real and you want to enact it, or if it's like any kind of cosmetic procedures, a dramatic change of your hairstyle or anything like that. Well, this is where you really have to control your urges, display a certain kind of self-discipline, because enjoying the highs of these energy, it is almost like being on substances. And for some people, it will actually trigger their urge for escapism, may it be alcohol or substances or fantasy or whatever. And it's absolutely fine as long as we know what we're doing and we have limits. It can be a very joyful and pleasant experience by all means, but we have to know that every high has a low. So acting upon certain instincts, feelings, fantasies, impulses might not be a very good idea, especially if the consequences are quite serious. Like if you undergo a dramatic haircut, well, you must have to accept the fact that if it doesn't meet your expectations, you will have to wait some time until your hair grows back. But if it's like a financial investment that I have to necessarily get this or that because I dreamt it or I feel it strongly intuitively, well, that might not be so easy to fix. But anyhow, this energy is absolutely magical and beautiful, even if it's a conversation of tension. But we have to take everything that we perceive and experience in a subtle way under this very dreamy Venus and Neptune with a pinch of salt, and we have to be disciplined. Because we have to be aware that the higher we go, the higher we ride these waves of fantasy, dreams, imagination, there will be a moment when we have to fall. And if we don't ride it to the very top of the mountain, then we are absolutely safe, because we can just fall in a very controlled way, so to speak, or we can just open our parachutes that we have packed with us. Now, the sign of Cancer is also about, as I said, our places in the world, our ancestral heritage, our community, our culture. So this Cancer full moon also asks us, where are we at home in the world? Are we at home in a specific place, our homes, our houses? Are we at home in our culture, in our country? Are we at home at any other specific place or culture in the world? Or is being at home simply a state of being? And because this Uranus speaks in a sextile with the moon, this can bring a lot of surprises and shocks, because maybe we can get an invitation to exactly where it is that we feel at home. For example, if we may live in a specific country, but emotionally our souls don't feel at home there, despite the fact that we have been born and raised there, all of a sudden maybe a new door of opportunity opens before our eyes in an unexpected way, where we get an invitation to a specific place where our souls do feel at home. But this can be valid in any other sense. In a community, culture, our ancestral heritage, a group of people, an association. In other words, like-minded souls where we just have to resonate with them emotionally. And this aspect is especially good for those people who have always been feeling lost, who always felt like aliens here, that they don't belong to anywhere, to anyone, to any group, to any culture. That Uranus can just simply act as a divine compass and all of a sudden show you that maybe that is where you belong. But at the same time, it can play out in a totally different way, where you just wake up to the fact that you belong to yourself, and that is more than enough. You are at home inside of yourself, inside of your life, inside of your uniqueness and distinctiveness, and there is no one like you on this planet, in this universe, and that is absolutely okay, because you love being immersed in your life, in your existence. And even if, first of all, that square at Chiron triggers the opposite of this, well, I don't belong anywhere, I don't feel loved or appreciated, or I don't feel anything, a sense of belonging anywhere, that might be an open wound that you have, but that Uranus can very quickly give you the answers, that being at home inside of yourself is all that you need, because the sign of Cancer is a sign of protection. Because, just look at the crab. The crab basically lives inside its shell. That is its world. Of course, the shell exists in the water, in the river, ocean, whatever, but its primary home, it's its shell. So basically, the universe created the crab with its home being part even of its physical body, and all of us have Cancer in our charts, and that is where we can feel at home inside our own comfort. For some people, yes, naturally that is a home, a house. For others it is a community, a culture, a country. For others it is just something psychological like solitude. There are a lot of hermits in the world who basically live inside themselves and their own dimensions, and they're very happy. But of course, this is individually. On the world stage, this can still reopen certain questions, about ethnicity, about borders, about, international travel and movement, what is allowed, what is not allowed. It is also about territories, especially disputed territories. Those territories which might belong to one country, but another one wants to claim it because of historical or legal reasons. So those subjects will be very, very active and ongoing at this time. But anyway, the main energy, at the time of this full moon, the ascendant is going to be Scorpio, which means a profound transformation and regeneration, which does involve giving up all those things that no longer serve us, and those things are mostly emotional, inner things, and maybe sometimes friends and people who are no longer relevant in our lives. But anyway, what a wonderful energy, what a blessing, what a divine guidance to help us navigate out of this old year 2020 into the new one, which is also the new paradigm. Well, this concludes the horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. We wish everyone a very, very happy and blessed new year. And please remember, if you'd like to sponsor us, you can find the contact details either in the description below, or just log on to our website 1millionnights.com and you can find the contact us button on there. Thank you again. Until next time, bye for now.